You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call, and I'm joined today by Brad Hunt. And today's podcast is with Stealthy Hunter as our guest, a.k.a., or I should say Ryan Lampers, a.k.a. Stealthy Hunter.
Everybody knows him as Stealthy.
Yeah. And today we're talking about gear. He and I had a long conversation. This is another section of the discussion that we had. On this podcast, we talk about boots, gators, pants, rain gear setup.
Basically from top to bottom, you guys cover what you're wearing and kind of your setup for that.
What worked, what didn't work, and multiple pairs of boots, what weight boots. We get into a good boot discussion in this that I think is useful. And how to stay dry, waterproof, etc. These conditions we were on in this Alaskan caribou hunt were pretty wet, and that's the subject of the discussion is the gear we used on this caribou/moose hunt. And we really wanted to kind of break that down. It's a good discussion. You'll get a lot of good information out of it. We've got some great sales going on right now. If you want to win a Peaks teepee, you want to win Initial Ascent backpack,
a canvas cutter bedroll setup,
vinyl
harnesses. You got
Everly stock, PSE bow, Black Eagle arrows. We got a whole big hunt package worth over $6,000. You want to win that package? All you got to do is go shop at Peaks. Every $10 you spend gets you entered to win. But if you use the code GRITTY over there right now, not only are you entered to win the big prize package, but you also get deals and discounts on everything at Peaks right now. Big sales going on. Use the code GRITTY. Get yourself trekking poles, gators, headlamp. Buy them for your friends. If they don't have headlamps, that's a great offer, great thing to buy right now. Now, they're out of stock on a whole bunch of crap, which is typical with Peaks. But sign up for the little notifications and via email or text message. You can sign up for either one.
You can sign up and be notified when all that stuff comes back in stock.
That new product is coming in stock in the next 5 days probably.
Yes, and it's regularly they're trying to just keep inventory coming. You know, with all the stuff overseas and shipments and stuff, they're still having issues with
Supply chain issues are a problem. So, if you just sign up, you'll get notified, and if you make that purchase right then you'll be entered to win, and you'll get those discounts at the time that they'll carry over to everyone that got on the list. So check that out. We really appreciate that. That helps us do our show, continue to do what we love to do, create content like this. I never let a day go by that I don't think about how grateful I am for the what I get to call is a job. I work hard at it. I do, and it's hard, and I feel like I've developed some good film skills, some good skills over time. But those things are not I wouldn't be able to do it without you guys at the end of the day supporting us. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much for that. We have another giveaway going on right now with the Gritty store. If you get a hat, t-shirt, sweatshirt right now, you're entered to win a Weatherby Mark 5 6.5 RPM brand new rifle with a Leupold scope on top. So every $10 you spend at the Gritty shop gets you entered to win. You just go to thegrittystore.com or go to briancall.com and click on shop, and you're there. So running out of styles, we're getting new ones in. We sold way more than we planned, so thank you to everybody who got in on this. It's awesome. Much appreciated. And for you guys that are into boots, which we cover on this podcast, we talk about the Wild Rock, what was the one, Ryan? Was it the
Altitude?
Altitude, and of course the Laponia 1 and the Laponia 2.0, the Wild Rock Plus, which was new for me this year. We talk about all that stuff. Well, if you want a deal on Crispy Boot, right now you get 20% off, which is big. It's a big ticket item. And it's at crispyus.com right now. You're not going to get it at the retail outlets, really. It's got to be at...
I believe it's the crispyus.com only.
I think they only do that sale once a year during this. They reserve the ability to have that kind of direct sale. So 20% off, folks, right now. If you go
December 4th.
So killer deal. Right now our film is out, and we drop a new one this Sunday. The new one is going to be, I hope it knocks your socks off. This caribou one was great. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Yep. If you leave a comment and like and subscribe to that video, it just helps our channel keep growing, get the word out, and you'll be entered to win an Everly Stock backpack.
Yep.
And also, if you share it on your IG story, tag us in it, you're going to get entered to win something from Peaks.
Yep.
Your choice. All right, Brad, let's get into this show. Folks, I hope you enjoy this one. It's all about gear. Everybody loves gear, so hope you enjoy this. Stay gritty. Okay, these conditions on this hunt, with the tundra, was a little bit different than our typical hunts, right? So people asked me about my hoodie I was wearing and some of the gear choices and gators, boots, things like that. So tell me what you were wearing, because just from top to bottom, because I think people are wondering what your selection was, why, and how it performed. And I'll share mine because we are not wearing the same stuff always.
Sure. Yeah, we can start from the bottom with the boots. I was wearing Crispies. I brought 2 pairs of boots on this hunt. This isn't a hunt that you have to be so lightweight that you can't bring 2 sets of boots. So I brought my tried and true lightweight boots. Normally I would bring a Laponia, which I have worn for years and absolutely love it. This year I've been experimenting with the new Altitude, which I've put a ton of miles on so far, and they've been great. But I'm still testing them.
That's a crispy boot.
After 6 months, I'm not 100% sold, but I'm very impressed with them so far. That's a crispy boot, crispy Altitude. But Laponia, kind of comparable to a Laponia.
How are they different?
So it's not an all leather outer on the Altitude like the Laponia is. They do have, what I really like about the Altitude is the tread on the bottom. If I had to try to conjure up a complaint about the Laponias, it would be that I burn through tread. In 6 months, I'm getting that tread down pretty good, but that may be 1,000 miles as well. It's a much softer tread, which I love about them because they're very quiet. Early season, you don't even need slippers or socks or whatever at times. You can literally stock in on animals with this soft treaded, very soft, comfortable boot. So
now, is that the 2.0 or the Laponia?
Either one. The tread's the same on the Laponia. 1.0, 2.0, the all leather is the same. The 2.0s, what they've done is they've extended that lacing down towards the toe box more. So you can, if you had a problem with the 1.0 about getting it real tight down in the toe box, with the 2.0 you can do that. You can cinch it a little further down and get it more wrapped around your foot down there. I could go either way on the 1 or the 2.0. I love them both the same.
Me too.
But they're very comfortable, very waterproof for a lightweight boot like that. Super impressed with that. The Altitudes, they are almost as comfortable, probably as comfortable as a 2.0 or as a Laponia. Very waterproof again. Same internals on that as you got with the Laponia. And the tread is much beefier and more longer lasting than the Laponia. So that was why I'm trying them out, is because I wanted to see how long the tread lasts. And it is going to last way longer than a Laponia will. But it is a little bit beefier, probably not as slipper-like as a Laponia when you're hiking on gravel, early season stock and deer. But I will say the Altitude is very, very comfortable. And I'm loving them so far. We'll see how long they stand up and the durability is on them. Like I said, I've been in them 6 months, so I'll have more to say in another 6 months to see exactly how long they last. But so far, I'm really impressed. So I was going back from the Altitude out there to the Wild Rocks. We brought Wild Rocks up there. It's a crispy Wild Rock. It's an insulated boot, which for a hunt like that, it's great because, number one, we're not moving around a ton. It's like we're not hiking 10 miles. But there is some insulation. The weather was very cold at times. Keeping your toes warm could be a struggle if you didn't have an insulated boot. But I kind of went back and forth with that boot or the Altitude. Both very waterproof. Now, obviously, you saw in the video, we were sloshing through water and rolling off these tussock grasses and things like that. So our feet were in the water a lot. And to have a boot that's waterproof like that is game-changing. So you don't have to spend, a couple hours at the end of every day trying to dry them. Now, we did have instances where we got our feet wet, but we were literally just kneeling in water at times. And up from that, obviously, the Peaks Gator had that on throughout most of the hunt. And what I went with on the pant was the Stone Glacier M7 pant. It's a rain pant. I had never worn those before. I'd had them sitting in my closet, just sitting there. I never even saw a use for those pants. 'Cause what they are is they're a rain pant, but there's like not an insulation. I guess it's an insulation. There's an inner to it that is much better for cold weather conditions. So they're not a straight rain pant. They do have some insulation to them. It's almost like a felt inside there underneath the rain pant. So I thought, I might as well try them out on this hunt. And I don't know how many times I talked about how I love those pants up there. I lived in them the entire time. I mean, I never went back to anything else. I left them on because what's nice about just hunting in a warmer than normal rain pant in those conditions, we're always sitting down on wet ground. We're kneeling down. We're breaking down animals. That comboed with the Gator and the boot, it didn't matter. I was always dry, even though we're living in water in wet conditions. You never know when a rain squall comes in, so there's not the taking off and the putting back on of rain pants.
And we're not climbing mountains, so it's not like you need a pant that. Because the downside to typically one would think wearing a pant like that is the breathability.
Yeah, you sweat. Now, that pant has a zip that goes all the way down to your ankle. Basically
dump
just
heat
below your hip, all the way down to your ankle. So if you are climbing something, you just dump the heat, open it up. In fact, I've been wearing that pant. I wore that pant on the entire deer season here in Montana. It was so cold. I just lived in it here as well, and we had snow. So yeah,
it intrigues me.
Now, I never saw an advantage to having an insulated rain pant. It just didn't make sense to me. But yeah, I was wrong. I tried them in Alaska, and it was incredible. And if I went back, those would be the pants I'd be in.
Yeah, because for me, I brought the Sitka Dew Point rain pant, super lightweight pant, and I wore a regular pant. And I get sweaty. I get sweatier than you typically. I just sweat whenever we hike or climb. And it was nice to throw the rain pant on over the outside when I needed to and take them off when I didn't want them. And having built-in knee pads are pretty good because that'll keep you somewhat dry. But as the trip proceeded, we were never exerting enough. Generally, it was so wet all the time in the air or on the ground, like just wet, that it's perfectly rational and even tactically probably better to just wear that rain pant you had on the whole time and never something else. And
I mean, the temps weren't getting above 40 degrees. It was in the 30s and the 20s. Would wake up, everything's frozen. So very cool conditions. So it was
and the rain pant, they block the wind, and in a way,
great at blocking the wind.
Right. And so I'm looking back, and I'm like, yeah, I think that Stone is onto something there. I'd like to try them out myself. My setup was, in contrast, just I don't remember. It's a Kuiu pant, which I like. It's their heavier weight with knee pad. And I'd throw the rain pants over the top. So it's layering up, layering down as needed. But but it would be nice not to have to put them on at all. And my pants would get pretty wet because I'd sit down if I didn't use your glassing pad because something happened, we're scrambling for caribou or whatever, crawling on the ground, you're wet, where you got to stay dry with your pants.
Yeah. You're always sitting, you're kneeling, you're crawling at times, you're on the ground. Everything is always a sponge. So just having a set like that, I think I would have a totally different opinion on those rain pants, and I would have sweated a lot if it didn't have that giant side zipper that you could dump heat. It'd be a different experience without that, because there was definitely times when we're cruising miles, or a mile through tundra or hauling meat or whatever, where I would have sweated pretty dang good if I wouldn't have opened up those zips. So, no, there's a big advantage to having that zip on a completely waterproof pant. So I'm a huge fan of that. It's almost embarrassing if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have thought there's no use for these pants ever. But
well, the other thing, I've done that before in some hunts for moose when the conditions were warmer, like when my first moose, and I just wore a rain pant. So I have my Gators, I have like knee-high socks, and then I have my Gators, right, and my boots and all that. And then I just ended up wearing rain pants only with some like Merino shorts underneath. And that's what I wore the whole time. So it's similar to what you're describing, only I imagine those stone pants provide a more higher comfort level, because you're not wearing just like a plastic bag.
Yeah, they have that fleecy material, so it feels good on your skin, other than we all know what a straight rain pant feels like on your skin. It's not comfortable at all.
There is
sticky, and
there is no replacement for the effectiveness of side vents. Side vents are the bomb.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and it allows you to get away with a pant like this. Now, you spoke to the windproofness of these pants, or rain pants. So, like I said on this deer hunt I was just on, we were experiencing those 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts, cold gusts that were coming through, give you a brain freeze if you were leaning into it. So I wore those pants, and I could feel it going through my base layers, which I had 2 on. And then I had a Merino on, a puffy jacket on, and I could feel that wind coming through all that, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a hood on, a beanie, and my ball cap, and I could get a brain freeze.
Yeah, when Mark and I would
into it.
I
didn't feel any wind in my pants, on my legs. I felt no wind getting through those pants. It was phenomenal. So my legs felt very warm in those conditions.
Yeah, I was looking at when we looked at the forecast, it would say 15 degrees. It feels like -20 because of wind chill. I'm like, it'd be like 10 degrees, feels like -25. And I'm like, yeah, it does. It does. It feels like that.
We saw those minus 11, minus 12 degree days that we'd wake up to. You combo wind to that, and it's brutal, absolutely brutal. So having something windproof is a real big help.
That was a regret of mine on this moose trip. I was very comfortable myself with my setup, but the only thing that was a problem for me is I did not bring the Wild Rocks, and I only brought the Laponia. And we had those cold days where the toes were getting cold. Now, overall, it wasn't bad. And I did have a few toe warmers I'd throw in my boots, which would compensate and kind of make my feet warm here and there. And we could bring those because, hey, you're floating in a boat. You're not packing them on your back, But nevertheless, the Wild Rock, my feet did get cold in the Laponia, not having the Wild Rock. And primarily when they got cold was rafting. Yeah. That's what I didn't pack the proper gear for rafting in a boat for 9 hours straight all day long. And my feet got stone cold, icy cold on those floats, those extended floats, when they never really got that cold on land and during our hunts, but the boat was miserable for me.
Yeah, just not moving around, not getting any blood flow going, sitting just stagnant that long can be brutal. So what we ended up doing, we ended up taking our boots off, and it was kind of nice to have the waders on. So we went Gore-Tex waders, and when you do that, you can throw a foot warmer right in the Gore-Tex wader in the bottom, and if you got the right wader, you got plenty of space and toe movement down there and room, so you can throw a boot or a foot warmer in there, and it actually, it has enough air to keep hot and keeps your toes fairly warm. But the Wild Rock for me was great because it was very warm and helped out. Even just sitting on our glass knobs when it was real cold, hiking in those things was pretty nice.
And Chris often didn't wear waders when he floated. He just put his Wild Rocks on. I think I would have done the same. And if they got wet, I would have just dried them out at night because my feet were
poor Chris,
so cold.
If you'll remember, poor Chris had to get out of his pontoon boat a couple times and was soaked up well beyond his knees when the pontoon would stick to a rock or something. So that didn't look fun at all to me. No. I definitely liked being in my waders.
Well, I liked that, but I needed next time, if there is a next time, and hopefully there is, I'm bringing some stupid warm booted waders because the raft
foot versus stocking foot.
Yep, because my feet tend to, ever since I did that trip with Tanis and Doran and Dustin Rowe and stuff, and my feet pretty much got frostbite. They've never been the same since. And when I go out, they can get really cold real quick.
Yeah. So being as I used to be a fishing guide and spent a crud ton of time standing in cold water in Washington fishing winter steelhead, you realize what boots work the best for keeping your feet warm. Stocking foot waders, they're nice to pack because they're lightweight. And you're not packing a big old heavy boot. You can put them over a crock, or you can, whatever, put another set of stocking foot socks over the top of your stocking foot. You can make it work. They're great, but where they're not great is in the very cold water, standing in a river, submerged, because the water presses those stocking feet to your feet and you're just right there at the cold. What's much better is to break down and get yourself a pair of boot foot waders, whether it's neoprene or even in a Gore-Tex upper, because the boot foots give you a lot more room down there. They're insulated and they really help keep your feet warm.
Yeah.
And that is the only way to go if you're a winter steelhead guy. Icebergs are floating down the river and you're still trying to catch winter steelhead. You want to be in a boot foot wader if you're in those conditions. So.
Well, since we're on this subject of feet and keeping them warm, we use the Wild Rock Plus on these late season freezing cold hunts. And the Plus is it 800 grams?
800 grams, yeah.
800 grams of insulation in the Wild. So the Wild Rock, the normal one, is it 4 or 5 or 6 or
4?
400 grams of insulation in the normal Wild Rock, which I've been using for a long time. This year I used the Plus, and so did you, so that's 800 grams.
800 grams
of insulation. And it's funny because I called Kendall Card, who is head of the distribution of Crispy in the U.S., and I'm like, Kendall, hey, what do you recommend? He's like, the Plus, because I was telling him the temps we were dealing with. And I was like, man, what if my feet get too hot? He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. So I got that boot, and I'm so glad I did. It was perfect.
So we both got, you want to talk about the sizing on,
Yeah.
I went a little up with the Plus. Normally I'm an 11. I went to an 11.5. And what that does, especially in these cold temps, I think when you get a cold weather boot like a Plus, you want to be you want to have a little more room in there. A tight boot is going to make your feet cold. So even with the insulation, you want something that's got a little bit of room, not too much. But I went a half size up on mine, and they were absolutely perfect with the big thick sock, and that comboed with the 800 grams of insulation, my feet just stayed nice and warm throughout, even in these minus temps.
I'll wear a 10.5 or 11 boot. Depends on the manufacturer. And I went with the 12. I went with the 12 in the Wild Rock.
So you went way big.
I went way big.
Way big.
Full size at least. And, loved it. It wasn't too big at all, because these late season hunts, like you said, it's important that the boots aren't constricting blood flow in your foot, and that you have that air barrier a little bit around, because when you need that air gap to really keep the warmth around your foot. And you're exactly right. And then it also accounts for a thicker sock, maybe, or even a sheep feed insole. Instead of the single layer foam, you could put in a double, which is a little warmer as well. But then also you throw in those toe warmers and those foot warmers as well. And
which
man,
you can't do if it's a boot that just fits you as is normal.
Nope.
I wouldn't be able to get one in there.
And the concern was, well, will it be too big? Will I feel this oversized boot and clomp around? And it's like, I didn't notice it at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, when you're in like a foot of snow, anyway, you already feel like you're clomping around. It's not like you're a ninja, like stocking foot sneaking. You know what I mean? And yeah, I went with quite a bit bigger. And my experience with Crispy in general is when you get a full grain leather, they do shrink over time. It might take a year, 2 years, 3 years, but I have found that within a couple of years, and I abuse my boots like nobody's business. And you too, because when you're on a 14-day hunt in these very remote but cold and wet places, you're inevitably likely to sweat into that boot and get it really wet inside if you're me, or you're just going to get water inside because of stomping through a creek or chasing a bull at moose or somewhere and kneeling at the carcass in a swamp, that's going to get water in your boot. So what happens is so you waterproof the boot before you go on the hunt. And you tell me what you think about this, but you waterproof it and you put all your bear grease, or you put your Crispy or whatever leather oil treatment you like to use. And some of these conditions, walking through wet brush across this tundra and through this stuff, within 2 or 3 days, a lot of that waterproofness starts to just disappear off your boot.
Yeah.
By day 6 or 7, that leather is just taken on water, unless you have brought something with you. And when we're backpacked in, we don't bring containers of oil to recondition our leather with. So now you got a leather upper that's thoroughly absorbing water, and the inside gets a little wet because of whatever reason. So now we're in a teepee where it's hot, and you're able to put a boot dryer in there, like the Graxaw boot dryers, which are money. And then we're able to dry out the inside of your boot, pull out your sheep feed insoles or whatever you got, dry those out in the peak of the teepee with the hot fire. Well, while it's drying the inside, it's also putting a lot of heat on the leather on the outside.
Oh yeah, you're going from wet to dry to wet to dry to wet to dry with leather. So yeah, we're abusing those things.
It's just the worst thing you can do to leather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going back and forth, dry wet. That's where the shrinking comes in. Every time you dry them, it's tightening it up a little bit more, and especially like you said, when you don't have any conditioner. If you were to condition them every night, maybe you could avoid some of that, but obviously that's just not feasible. So,
and we'll put our boots, if the inside of my boots are dry, then I do my best not to expose them to heat. Even if, I don't care if the outside's wet, because the Gore-Tex liner keeps my feet completely dry. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you. I used to do the whole fire thing. You just feel like you need to dry your boots at the end of the day, right? So you get them nice and close to the fire. I mean, I don't know how many pairs of boots I burnt up in my younger days, but too many. But there's not a reason to do that. The inside is important. The outside, I couldn't care less if it's frozen. Right. We run hot tents anyway, so I know I'm going to be able to get that frozen boot on in the morning just by it thawing out in our hot tent. I think maybe if you didn't have a hot tent and you were worried about it freezing like a brick and not being able to get it on in the morning, yeah, maybe you want to have it a little drier. It's going to make it easier to get on that next morning. But that's not a concern because every morning we wake up to a nice fire.
Yeah.
And so you're able to get your boots on. So there's no need to try to dry that leather every day. The outside, I don't put it anywhere near the fire. The only reason I'm drying a boot is if the inside gets wet.
Yep.
Just let it ride, and then you're prolonging the life of that boot.
Yep. Inevitably, sometimes it's just wet in there, and so, you know, I sometimes it's just in the peak of the teepee with that heater going, and like I said, that abuses the boot more than normal. And then we do way more days in the field than most guys do in those types of conditions. So we put the boots through their paces and they shrink. Yep. And what I found is going up a full size or even more, even it accounts for that shrinkage. And years later, I get more use out of the boot than when I go with the smaller one that fits perfect, you know.
Now, you've been to the Crispy factory. You know there's differences in the leather. Like, obviously, the Laponia, my number one boot by a mile, that is a very different leather than, say, the Wild Rock or the
Isn't
Nevadas.
It synthetic?
Because it's much less. The Wild Rocks and the Nevadas and all those aren't as supple and soft as what the Laponia is. That Laponia leather is very soft. And I don't notice the shrinking as much. I don't notice the shrinking at all in those boots. It just stays kind of supple and soft versus the other boots.
I believe what you're dealing with there is, well, let me look it up here. There's a few things. So full grain leather gives you it's the top of the leather of like a cow. It's the outer, it's using it with the hair side, the hair removed. You're using that piece of the hide. So the part that is outward facing to where the fur normally is, you strip the fur off. That's the full grain. That gives you a little bit of a more impervious barrier to the outer elements than just a straight leather from like in the flank. And so like the Nevadas are not full grain. They've taken the outer layer and they've like almost ground it down. So then you get more the inner part of the leather on the animal, the hide. So it's thinner, more supple, comfortable on day one. Where the full grain, like the Wild Rock, is a little stiffer. And it also isn't prone to shrinking. It's not as prone to the environment either. Then on the Laponia, it's a third. I want to say it says water repellent nubuck and suede leather. And I'm not sure. Like what I've noticed about that leather on the Laponia is, for some reason, it doesn't really shrink. Mm-mm. Like we can heat the crap out of that thing on either one of them, and I haven't noticed they shrink. I know the Brickstall, for example, a lot of guys, my friends, like when I spent a lot of time at Mountain Ops, a lot of the guys loved that Brickstall.
I know that's a stiff boot. I know a lot of guys really love those Brickstalls.
So the Brickstall says, now it says the same thing, water repellent nubuck leather. Kendall told me it was kind of like a synthetic type leather, meaning it doesn't shrink. Like it doesn't shrink. A lot of guys switched over to that because they got frustrated by their full grain leather boots shrinking after 1 year. They couldn't wear them.
I can imagine, yeah.
And so, and you're talking about $300-$400 plus pair of boots. So, so the Wild Rock and the Guide and some of those boots, the Nevadas, I highly recommend going up quite a bit in size because those boots tend to shrink. The Laponia doesn't tend to do that. The Brickstall, this nubuck, water repellent nubuck, whatever that is, it tends to be not prone to shrinkage.
Yeah, that's nice. And I'm so used to the Laponias that shrinkage isn't really a thing. Like there's just a short window at the end of the season where these Wild Rocks are coming into play, like an insulated boot.
Yep.
I try to go uninsulated as much as possible till I absolutely have to. And
same here.
I did this year because Laponias and minus temps are a recipe for some frozen toes.
Yep. I ended up using hand foot warmers and such throughout when my Laponias weren't quite warm enough. It was great. I put them on the top of my foot. It was great. That's all I needed to get me through to when I needed to switch to the Plus. And when I went to the Wild Rock Plus, I still use foot warmers here and there on some days. And, but man, cold feet were a thing of the past. It was really nice.
Yeah, those things are great. And I think for an Alaska trip, if you're doing it that time of year, September, frozen mornings, cool days, I think for a float trip, that Plus is really perfect for the trip that we did. Definitely served me well on that one.
So the Gators, how are they performing?
Fantastic. Can't break them. Yeah, I just I got a pair of the green ones here lately. I've been wearing those on this last trip. You don't have a pair of green ones?
I don't have them. I always get a shaft here.
No,
you live
great.
Next to Bryce, so you get
I know. You get to bum those things off him. But he let me borrow a pair. And they're as bomb-proof as the ones before. So
they're like an olive green, right?
Yeah. Kind of a two-tone green. But same threading, Dyneema. Boots, the Kevlar straps, all that same, but
they're tough.
Yeah, they're just bomb-proof, man. I don't know how you break the Stormcastle Gator. It's just,
and they fit
as good as it gets. Yeah.
Even those fat calf guys, like in short legs, like me, like I can find a pair that fit.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't size based on calf width.
Yeah.
And so that's always been my complaint, and Bryce addressed it. It's nice.
You need because you got the fatter calf, it's
and the shorter
profile leg.
That's right. Like people often complain about how their Gators fall down. Nobody complains with the peaks.
No, it's nice having basically two ways to lock those things in. You got the Velcro, but then you've got the gatekeeper up there to really cinch them down to just above your calf. So no, they don't fall down on you.
And then tell me about kind of the waist up. What were you wearing? And remind me, what were the pants you were using? What are they? The M7?
M7s, yeah.
Stone Glacier.
Stone Glacier typical running pants are the M5s, and they call these the M7s, which is an insulated version, I guess. From the waist up, it's just your typical stuff, ran the base layers, Merino base layers, and then puff jacket was on a lot. My hippie sweatshirt is always on, it seems as if. And it's not from San Francisco. It is from Bozeman, Montana, made in America.
Who makes it?
Duckworth makes it. And it looks very hippie, but I love that merino wool, thick merino wool. It looks heavy. It's not heavy at all. It's very, very lightweight, surprisingly lightweight, but does the trick. So I love that that hoodie. But I live in that, and then obviously the Grumman puff jacket I wear over top of that, and that right there. The rain jacket goes on and off depending on what we're doing, what's rolling through, if we're sitting or rain comes in or whatever. But that's kind of the only layering system that we have is a merino base layer, the hoodie, the puffy, and the rain jacket if needed.
I use the Origin merino top. It's like it's a blend. It's merino mixed with whatever, polyester or something like that, with the zipper and so on. And I love it. I love the thing. I lived in it basically after this hunt in Alaska. I pretty much lived in it the rest of the season, and became one of my favorite jackets, I'd probably like the one you have from Duckworth as well. I forgot how much a heavier layer of wool, how good it feels.
Yeah.
It's got such a wide comfort temperature range.
Yeah, it does. You can hike in it, and you can stand in glass in it. It regulates heat very, very well, like Merino does. But then you take a thicker Merino like that, and it's just perfect for all conditions. Alaska is one set of conditions. When we had these minus temps, the layering system doesn't change much. I still have that heavy duty Merino hoodie on, the Duckworth hoodie. Mm-hmm. But then, I have my Grumman that I slip on when I stop. But then if I'm hiking, I take the Grumman off and I just hike, and I don't overheat and I don't get too cold. It's just kind of a very even keel temperature on with that type wool, that Merino, thicker Merino wool in that hoodie. So I really like it. I don't know. It's going to take something drastic to make me change my hippie hoodie there.
Yeah. I'd like to try that hoodie in comparison to the Origin, the one that I have. I do like that I can zip it. I don't have to pull it over the head. I do like that it has a few pockets, and I like the cut of it. I think one thing that's took some getting used to was our modern clothes are articulated, or they're 4-way stretch. And so you don't feel any impingement when you raise your arms above your head or do anything. But when I put on a formal kind of wool cut jacket like what Origin has put out, I can feel a little bit of resistance, and that was new because I mean, I think it was the 90s the last time I was wearing something that.
I was going to say, I remember those days where we had the wool jackets, even those thick green wool pants, if you can remember those, and how unstretchy they were.
Yep.
Great at regulating heat again, staying warm in harsh conditions. But not the stretch that we've become accustomed to, I guess.
Yep. I found, though, that the cut was really nice and that I didn't really notice it, the impingement that much, just a tiny bit, maybe when I did my binos up to my eyes or something. It was very, very minimal, not enough to outweigh like how much I love the jacket. The rest, I honestly, dude, if I didn't like it, I would not wear it 24/7 on all my hunts. You
lived in it. Yeah, you lived in it.
It just feels great. I'm curious how your Duckworth garment compares, because I could see things. That one looks more like a sweatshirt almost, where it's baggy and kind of seems like it doesn't impinge movement.
Yeah, very comfortable.
Curious how warm it is in comparison.
Yeah, it's going to be much lighter weight. I don't know in ounces, but it's a lightweight jacket comparable to what you're running. Yours is much heavier duty, I would say. But Kayam Lloyd, who does a lot of camera stuff, he came with me on the recent hunt. He saw some advantages in that Duckworth jacket too. He grabbed one and he lived in it on a recent trip that I did with him, and he loves it as well. It's just comfortable, man. It's very lightweight, keeps you warm.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things I really loved about the Origin top was it's durable as hell. Like, I'm busting brush, I'm laying in the dirt, I'm rolling on the ground, I'm getting wet. Like, I just wore it in rain and snow, and I swear, I mean, I know it was getting wet, but I didn't care because it didn't impact how I felt. And I was like, and then it just sort of dried out pretty efficiently. Like, when it did get wet, I never noticed it, and so I didn't bother throwing on a rain jacket. Sometimes I wanted to see how far it could go. And I'm like, like, it's taken on quite a bit of water and I still can't tell. And then when I took it off later, felt pretty dry. So it was just a weird, I'm honestly like, it's a weird garment. Like, I have been so far removed from wool in all these years. I forgot how nice it is.
Oh, it's as good as it gets for cold weather hunts, no doubt. It's just great at regulating heat. fortunately, we have this lightweight wool now that we can play with and wear around versus the old wool that we used to deal with. That stuff was not as comfortable. It was very scratchy and very, very heavy to pack around. I mean, we are spoiled with what we have right now, with the stuff that Origin's building and what Duckworth's doing, both USA made. I know everything from Duckworth is sourced right here in Montana. So now their stuff isn't cheap. Yeah. It hurts a little bit, but lasts well, and the Merino they use is top end. So
when we were up there in Alaska, I mentioned to one of our friends we hooked up with up there that I was wearing the Dew Point rain jacket, and he's like, and it didn't work, right? Or something like that. And I was like, well, actually, I mean, I actually brought the Dew Point rain pant. I'm sorry. And it did just fine, because you're wearing gators and you have a jacket on top. And so you really don't, the rain pant, when you got gators on, I think is, and knee pads in your other pants, like the rain pants they don't have to be like special. But the jacket, I brought the Stormfront jacket. I didn't bring the Dew Point.
Is that their heavy duty?
That's their heaviest duty version with like the rubber sleeves, cuffs, and stuff like that. That jacket's pretty much bomb proof, for wet, elbows in the water and in the dirt and mud and everything and cold. And it's just a good jacket. I didn't bring the Dew Point for that. And it's probably a good thing I didn't, because it sounds like some of those Alaskan guys are like, yeah, that stuff's it's backpacking rain gear, but it ain't going to do the job long term in Alaska.
Yeah.
But I did bring them as the pant, and because I hate packing heavier pants. But I think the Stone M7s are definitely, you proved it. They're a pant I probably should work into my kit on the next this type of hunt.
I can honestly say I think I've had them on 99% of the month of November here because I've been hunting this whole month for muleys, and there's very, very few days that I haven't had them on. So they're extremely comfortable for a rain pant just by the nature of how they built them with that internal insulation to them.
How did the rain jacket by Stone perform?
Good. So I only brought the pants, the M7 pants on that trip. But they do the M7 upper, so the jacket as well. Kind of wish I would have brought that to Alaska. But yeah, I usually just take the M5s just because it's a very lightweight set. And, I try not to be in rain gear as much as possible when I'm hiking. But as far as the upper, that's only going on if it's absolutely raining. So I bring the M5s just because it's a nice like mid-weight type. It's not too light where it doesn't quite work, and it's not too heavy that I'm not really willing to pack it. But the M5 jacket is pretty much in my backpack. Well, it is in my backpack on every hunt. Sometimes the pants don't make it. The jacket's always in there. And it's just a good compromise of weight. So that's the one I take.
Yeah. Okay. That about sums it up. I mean, you always wear some ghetto hoodie or hat or something. What did you have on beanie wise?
Beanie wise, I don't know, some Merino beanie that I found. I've lost 2 beanies this year. Don't ask me how, but I have. My wool beanie that I've lived in, somehow I dropped it on a hunt, so I went to my old Merino beanie on this one. But yep.
I gotta admit, I do like that Sitka wind blocker beanie that they make. It weighs nothing. It's thin, but something about how it blocks the wind takes it to a whole new level, where I find I have to wear a really thick beanie, wool beanie, if I want to stay warm on those really cold hunts, because the wind just cuts right through it if it doesn't have some kind of wind blocker in it.
Yeah, I definitely wish I'd have had something like that on this last one, because me and Boardman, we were leaning into the wind and we could not keep our brains from freezing without a wind blocker for a hat. We had, our beanies on, our ball caps on, and the hoodies on, and the Grumman hoodie on. It didn't matter. It was cutting right through it.
So I wore that Sitka, the little like cap. They make it in different colors and camo and everything. And the other thing that I got with Brad, we popped into town between a trip because you need a face shield in that stuff.
Balaclava, yeah, for sure.
And I got that Sitka Gator. It's just like a fur tube that goes over, and it has like wind blocker. And the thing often with a lot of the stuff that goes over your face, balaclava, is you breathe into it, and all that moisture from your mouth gets through and soaks the
freezes instantly,
and then freezes, and it's just annoying.
Yeah.
So the Sitka version, I don't have it here. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's kind of like this. This is a Kuyu hat that I never wear, but it's got this sort of fleece inside almost, so the Sitka one is just a tube. It goes over. You've seen it, I'm sure, but it goes over your neck. But it pulls up around your face and goes even up around your ears and fits comfortably around your neck. And man, I pulled that thing up in those nasty, windy flats, and with those super heavy winds and those cold chill factors. And I could breathe into it. And I had used like 3 different types of face covers on that trip. I mean, I just bought this because I'm like, I'll try that and see what it's like, just testing stuff. And I bought it at the store, and it went up, pulled it up over, and I would breathe into it. But it's so thick, like it would disperse that heat and it wouldn't reach the outside. It wouldn't freeze. It blocked the wind. I mean, it was perfect. It was great. And then I'd pull it down around my neck.
Yeah, how did it do fogging up the binos on the glass? And that's always my problem.
It didn't, because
it didn't do it.
No, because it kind of has this. It's so thick and furry, kind of, that it just the heat and moisture would sort of dissipate through the material, but not escape out of it, and it would kind of then evaporate or whatever. It was really. I was impressed. I was really impressed, and I pretty much wore it all the time. The only thing I wish is that it wasn't camouflage. I'm just sick of. I'd like it to just be a solid of some kind. But
yeah, that sounds like an upgrade. I've been just using the neck gators, and they're great when you're hiking into the wind. It keeps your face from frostbite, but you're breathing into it, so it instantly all that moisture builds up, and as soon as you take it off your face, you got this frozen neck gator, that's just hard. So the next time you put it up, you got this frozen solid little neck gator, and it's always a struggle trying to glass with that thing on, which is kind of when you want it up on a knob in the wind. I just can't glass with it on because it just instantly fogs up.
Yeah, that Sitka one was it was nice. I almost discounted it because the other ones, the balaclavas cover your whole head, and they've got this face thing, and you have all these skiing type equipment, and you're thinking, surely there's so many more moving parts, and it's designed, and then I just have this fur tube that I got from Sitka. I'm like, whatever, I'll try it. And surprisingly, that ended up being by far the most effective and comfortable. Because I was out there with Eli and Mark, and they were having the whole face shield kind of stuff that we had before. And I'm like, I'm not dealing with any of those issues. I'm impressed. So
nice. Yep.
Anyway, well, that kind of gets, I think, through the gear there. I mean, as far as clothing and conditions on that trip, I just thought a lot of people would be curious. I mean, with all that swampy water and stuff, I got to admit the Laponia with those boots, with those gators and stuff, it was dry. We were dry.
for folks that watched the movie, you saw we're pretty much just walking in water when we're to and from our spots, and to have dry feet at the end of the day, that's a testament to the system, the Gators plus the boot combo. Combo that with rain pants, and it's very comfy.
And when I hunted Kodiak, it was similar conditions. I've been there a couple times, and if you're not hiking a ton, the normal Wild Rock is not a bad boot for that either, because they're tall boots. And the only downside I really experienced with the Laponia is they're a little shorter. And so water can creep in under that Gator a little bit and get into your boot, where with the Wild Rock, the lower insulated one, my feet got a little bit warm sometimes on some long hikes, but not enough to justify leaving them at home. So that would be my second choice. If in fact, there was a number of days where I'm like, we were going through ankle deep and then knee deep water. Those Wild Rocks, they keep that water, because the boot's so tall, they keep that water out of that boot. And it takes quite a bit to get through the Gator and a boot that tall. I mean, just quite
like 10 inches or something like that, I think, on the Wild Rocks maybe. Yeah, the Laponia sit down there just over ankle, so they're much shorter, more apt to get wet if you're stomping in knee-high creeks and things like that.
But we did it. We crushed it with the Laponia, and we proved that they'll stay dry with Gators, and you had to be a little careful. Like, you couldn't just stomp through the swamp. You can see we're picking our way across clumps and water and stuff to try to limit.
Trying to stay under your ankles if at all possible. Sometimes you can't help it. You just got to go through it. But yeah, I mean, if we would have just walked, some of those places you can step down and it's well over your knee. I mean, there's sinkholes out there that you can get yourself sunk into pretty fast. So always kind of looking for those clumps to stand on and utilizing that. But at the end of the day, our feet were pretty dang dry overall. So
yep. And the like I said, that normal Wild Rock on Kodiak, it was later in the season, so I had brought it because it was colder. And we were pretty early. I mean, this is during our normal type of elk season when me and you were in Alaska. So it had its warm times, and we didn't want to be wearing a Wild Rock, but if it was a couple weeks later, I think the normal Wild Rock would be pretty ideal in terms of keeping water out of your boot and giving you a little more depth of water you can charge through, and also keep your feet just a touch warmer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the water separates it. I think the water just makes more sense to run a 10-inch type boot, even if uninsulated,
Yeah.
So,
but we're in love with those Laponia.
Oh man, it's hard to get me away from the Laponias, and now those altitudes. We'll see how the altitudes do, but like I said,
I mean, those Laponia, dude,
so good.
They're so light. Like, you don't feel like you wore a boot all day. So much energy efficiency. Like, when I lift my leg, there's no weight attached.
They're like a slipper, man. I said that a billion times. They're slipper-like. People have fallen in love with Laponias. Once they get them on their feet, I think folks realize now it's not like necessary to have a big, heavy, big old stiff, what used to be what everybody wanted for mountains, boot. These lightweight, comfortable boots, they're great. And, even for sheep guys that I know love a stiff boot, man, if I was ever lucky enough to draw a sheep tag, I would be in a Laponia all day long.
Me too.
Even in the steep country, I just step a little different, and they work great for me. And, we've talked about sometimes we go 10 miles in on a flat trail, maybe. There's nothing worse than taking a big, heavy, stiff boot and going 10 miles to get to your area where then you got to climb steeps. And that's a pretty uncomfortable 10 miles. For me, anyway, I'm just not used to stiff boots.
It's horrible. It's terrible.
Laponias, it's like you're wearing a little sneaker. So.
for a guy that's broken his ankles, in the past and sprained, torn ligaments, my ankles, they're not the best. And so, you've been with me when I hurt my ankle. And so wearing an ankle brace, like the one I recommend, Sweeto Universal, I'll throw that brace on because I get my boots sized up to accommodate the brace. Mm-hmm. And, man, the brace is far more supportive than any built-in stiffness in a boot. It just is. So already with the brace, you when you put a brace on, you're better off. It's like taping your ankle almost if you have a good brace. Hmm. That's pretty dang robust support. And then you can slip it into the boot you want rather than, people are like, yeah, but wearing a bulky brace with a boot over it, it's not comfortable. Well, yeah, that's true if you're wearing a boot that's trying to address the issues that a brace brings to the table. Like the Laponia isn't doing that. The Laponia is a supple, soft upper that just is very pliable and can work around your brace no problem. It's not this thick, heavy-duty upper with like reinforced metal inside of it and things like that. Like
it doesn't have the ankle support doesn't come.
No,
low pony at all. It's very soft-sided,
and so it's almost like a high-top tennis shoe. Mm-hmm. And so it's perfect. You throw your ankle braces on, lace that thing up, that Laponia up, and I feel a lightweight boot that feels really comfortable. I can hike in all day with crazy support from the ankle brace, and the only thing that's kind of a downside is the ankle brace, like there's sweat build up a little more, like it doesn't breathe the same. I pull it out and I dry it out each night, the brace, my sweaty feet. I have sweaty feet anyway, but
more advantages to having a hot tent. You can dry stuff like that out every night. It's great.
So, by the way, people did ask quite a bit on when's that Peaks teepee going to be available? How did you like it? Blah, blah, blah. And a few people are like, hey, I'd love to go buy stuff at Peaks right now because we're doing a big giveaway. He's like, but everything they have is out of stock.
Oh, is that good or bad?
I get, I'm like, come on, Bryce, dude, like you're killing me, brother. Like we do these big sales. If you don't have any product, how are you going to sell it, Bryce?
Yeah. So when is the TP hitting the shelves out there? I'm not sure.
I think it's going to be debut sort of around the Western Hunt Expo.
Gotcha.
Which would be January, February timeframe, sometime around February maybe. So in the meantime, they got gators, they got poles, they got headlamps, and a few knickknacks like Merino hoodie, hats, and spoons and stuff. But gators, poles, and headlamp pretty solid. But I don't. I think they're out of stock on quite a bit of it.
Are they out on the headlamps?
I know they're out on headlamps, but Bryce told me last night that they'll have them back in stock within the next 10 days. So for those that are interested, you sign up for the email or the text message notification. That's when they're back in stock. You'll get notified right away through email or text. Hey, it's here, and then you can pick it up. But I'm like, Bryce, we're doing this big giveaway for people that are listening and don't know and haven't seen the movie. We're doing a big giveaway, tons of like $6,000 in hunt prizes and stuff. And to be entered to win, every $10 you spend at Peaks gets you an entry. And plus, there's already discounts associated with using the code GRITTY. So when they use the code GRITTY, not only do they get a deal, they also get entered to win the big prize. So it's cool, and it helps me keep doing, and you keep doing what we do, and helps Bryce's company. It's great. I love doing this stuff. So there you have it, folks. The gear that we used on this Alaskan trip, I hope it was useful. I hope you got out of it some quality information.
So now you guys know that you can go get the same sweatshirt that Ryan found in San Francisco out of Montana.
Yeah, you can in Bozeman. The one he found under a bridge. Actually, I really do like the Origin Merino jacket that I got from the guys down there. I got to tell you, man, that is a sweet piece of gear. I'm not sure that what Ryan's rocking would be. Both are made in America.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure what Ryan's rocking would suit my desired.
It is a lighter weight than what the.
It's lighter for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It compacts a little bit more. It's not as durable.
No.
Like I can roll around in the dirt and brush with the Origin.
Yeah.
I got to admit, I do prefer the zippers and the pockets in the Origin over a pullover. And it's a little heavier duty, I think, and a little bit more probably water resistant. Yeah, but I have not used the one Ryan is using, and he loves his. And so, you know, until I use two products and really weigh them out, I can't say, period. Right. Same with backpacks, anything else. It's hard to say what I have a preference for. Both are great. Both are American made. But here's where I stand though, 100%. I want to wear wool as that kind of mid-weight layer.
We've kind of,
because we've been ditching that layer.
Forgot about the wool. You know, we've gone to all this new synthetic stuff.
You're either freezing your butt off.
You are. And
a little bit on the cold side as you're hiking and you're throwing on like a vest that your arms are
sweating your butt off.
You're sweating and you're throwing your puffies on after you get there. But that really in between jacket.
And I would say, obviously, although way more so on cold hunts, late season hunts, you know.
That's really it, is we're talking late October and then November, December. Yeah. That merino layer is great. But I got to tell you, I can't wait to wear that Origin stuff for archery.
Yeah.
I think September, dude, I'm going to live in that because it is so comfortable when you get a little bit hot, it still breathes super well, and then when you get cold, it keeps you warm. Just like Ryan said about his jacket, you know.
Yep, exactly.
So, and if you want to support Origin, they're just an awesome company right now trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's hard to beat what they're doing over there. I'm really glad that we have some companies that are out there pushing that. Not every company we work with can do that.
No.
Or not even a lot of manufacturing it's not even possible to do here if you wanted to.
Take trekking poles, for example. You cannot even make those carbon poles here if you want to.
There's no carbon manufacturing machine here in the United States. It's really sad, but it's the reality of the situation. It'd be great to bring some of those tools and those machines back and that knowledge back to the United States, and hopefully, as companies grow and they try to prioritize that, they will. But our own federal government is in the way of us actually achieving that. So anyway, that's a whole different discussion. And I want to get the guys from Origin on to perhaps just kind of give us some background on, you know, how it is.
And the hoops they jump through and everything. Yeah.
How hard it has been to try to do that and make something that people want that then is that has a profit margin that can carry their way forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of times ideals and economics are hard to mesh, you know, and we're all doing the best we can, honestly. We really are, especially, you know, even as we're building rifle covers and glassing pads over at Stealthy, it's like, okay, you know, how do we do as much here as possible versus other places? What's the cost? What's the value in the end? And we've made a lot of sacrifices to try to you know, financial costs, just like Origin has done, to try to make it so
it's American made, you know.
Yeah, that these things benefit our country and our people.
Yeah,
you know. So anyway, different discussion. I hope you're enjoying the films, and I hope you're enjoying these podcast discussions I've been having with Ryan. We got a new film dropping on Sunday, so I hope you tune into that. It's an incredibly awesome. I'll just throw it out. It's a moose. We switched from the caribou to the moose, obviously, and it's pretty intense.
I think you'll like it.
That moose is a beast, and the footage is pretty cool. And I think you're going to enjoy the hunt. So tune in for Sunday's film drop. And don't forget about our sales with Peaks right now. It just goes until December 18th. If you shop over there, every $10, you get entered to win that big giant package. And you get big, deep discounts. If they don't have things in stock, which they tend to not right now, they're getting stuff in stock every 5 to 10 days. Just sign up for the little notification. And they'll have stuff that's missing right now on the website in the next 5 days or so, if or less. And then they'll sell out again, and then they'll have another notification and just get signed up. And then also we have Gritty merch right now.
Yep.
And we are trying to sell as many Gritty hats and T-shirts and sweatshirts as possible. And you will be entered to win a Weatherby Mark V rifle.
Yep.
And Leupold scope if you do that.
I have to say, it's one of my favorite hats, actually. Like, they're
it's cool,
very comfortable.
I like
them.
I like the script with the mountain. Seems like the one you have.
Yeah, this one seems to be the most popular one right now.
Yeah, I like it is the most popular. That patch in the and not just that color. In the Loden green is another popular color. The sweatshirts are high quality. They're nice. They're heavy duty. They're great for this winter time. That's what we're rocking right now outside. I'm a little chilled, but I'm feeling pretty good.
And this one, I'm not. This one's a little heavier than that one.
Yeah,
and it's pretty warm. So
they're nice, and we'll get more styles and more things over time. For you guys that are weight conscious, that are like, dude, I am not going to carry a stainless steel GSI Microlight in September. We have
a Gritty Nalgene.
We have a Gritty Nalgene bottle, so you can get one of those and throw a cap on it, and have a lightweight bottle for you really hyper lightweight guys. It's hard for me. I mean, I'll use an Nalgene here and there for different uses, but it's hard for me to leave that stainless steel.
It's so hard.
But it's nice to have both.
It is, but it's so hard. I mean, you want a cold drink when it's hot outside. You want a hot drink when it's cold outside. So.
We're working on a stainless option, and even maybe working with GSI to brand some things. Yeah. But it's harder. It's easier said than done. So we'll see what happens there. But keep checking out the shop. Like I said, every $10 gets you entered to win. And Brad and I aren't really making a dime off of that. No. It's all my sister. She really helped me launch Gritty. Honestly, the people that followed me from the beginning, but for like 3 years, she was an unpaid employee spending 20, 30 hours a week editing my shows and helping me out. And then later, when the show started to make some money, I paid her some pitiful wages to continue editing. The reality is I wouldn't have been able to carry the day on this without my sister. Yeah. Not only that, she was the person who said, you have to do this, and I'm going to make you do it because I see talent and I see your ability to make film and things like that needs to grow, and I really believe in you. And I didn't really believe in myself the same way, and she just did it. She just said, just do this, put the camera in front of me, just took the edit, and then once I got the ball rolling, she stepped aside, and she's a mother of, I don't know, she's got a lot of kids.
What, 5 now? 6,
yeah, I think, 6, and I could count them up because I know every single one of them. But I love her to death, and every time you guys shop over there, it helps her, and it helps her. I'm excited. I think it also helps me, of course, because I get more branding out in the I get advertising and stuff like that. But more than that, it helps build community when we have hats and shirts, and we have a lot of hat and shirt ideas too that are kind of that would be unique to our inside community.
Yeah, exactly.
Like little inside jokes. Yeah, some chukka shirts or just some things that Ryan says or that we've done together, philosophies or ideals.
I think we need a try acting shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, I could throw that out there. No.
Try acting like a man. I do think all that kind of stuff that's kind of unique to us, that my sister will begin working on that as the income grows and she's able to reinvest in new shirt designs, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It's a fun place. It's better than her job at Lowe's. She works part-time at Lowe's, and nothing against just a blue-collar guy, like a working job, but I'd like her to be able to make more money and do something that's much more rewarding. Yeah. And I feel like I owe her. I mean, she's been a absolute she's a big reason why I am where I am today. So, which is a great place to be. We get to hunt a lot. Yeah. And that's a special thing I'll never take for granted. So thanks for tuning in. And again, thanks for supporting all the things that we do. We really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the next film. And until next time, stay gritty.